it was a very nice day, and it kind of rained, and now it's kind of like a nice warm day, but it's Ocean Shores. So this, we really don't have a agenda. Normally we have some type of a topic, although I've got some ideas that I can talk about if we need to. But number one goal is to just hear from what you have to say, maybe ask some questions. If we don't have the answers, that I've got Sandy that's going to be taking notes for us so that we can get those back. And of course, Scott, my city administrator, is the one that usually has a lot of the answers for me. But as mayor, I think I'm on month 7.
I think so.
Something like that. So it's been a wild ride so far. One of the things that I thought I knew before I took the job, I didn't know. And I learned every single day, and I realized that there's things that I assume, and once I do the work, then I assume that I don't know what I'm doing. So again, I really appreciate feedback. I get emails, I get phone calls. I've had meetings with citizens. I'm out and about, and every time that I hear someone, I appreciate it. Why we're doing whatever we're doing. That I've always maintained that one of the biggest things that Ocean Shores needs is better representation outside of City of Ocean Shores, because a lot of the things that we have to get done here it's our representative, and sometimes I think Ocean Shores, or basically rural Washington, gets forgotten on some of the things. So we're working really hard on getting some of those things of making sure that Ocean Shores is represented at the tables of the different things. We've got a lot of big projects going on, projects that we're talking about, and for whatever reason, we just don't make it to the end. So our hope is that on our big projects that we actually get those things done. So that's kind of like opening statement. First of all, I just throw it out to you guys if you guys got questions. Yes?
Wait, here, so we have to do it this way. I have to be the mic person so they can see it on TV and hear it.
Hi, everyone. As many of us are aware, on February 14th, the no truck signs were installed on Dolphin Avenue Northeast. Previously, Chief Logan told me that if offending trucks were documented by photos and or in writing, that she would address these trucks and their companies. Since February 14th, myself and my neighbors have done such documenting and have forwarded a few of these to Mayor Martin and Chief Logan. I do have an incomplete list with dates and as much detail as possible. It's incomplete because actually I really do not stand outside on my front yard and write these down, honestly. But I do a lot of walking on Dolphin, and I do know my neighbors fairly well. Photos have been taken. One of the main offenders are drivers from Arrow Lumber. One afternoon on my daily regular walk down Dolphin, an Arrow Lumber truck headed south on Dolphin. I took a photo with my iPhone because Chief Logan asked me to do this, and the driver proceeded to slow down, pull over extremely close to me in the opposite lane, in my walking lane. He was very intimidating and told me to erase my photo. He proceeded down to the end of Dolphin and turned around to return heading north on Dolphin. So that was actually kind of scary. It was intimidating, which I think this is what he wanted. Actually, he did have a delivery on Dolphin, which would have been addressed by going south on Point Brown, turning left on Ocean Lake, and then on Dolphin. And there are other times. But anyway, many full-time residents on Dolphin have done what you have asked, obtained the signs, made documentations, and we still have this issue. And our road is becoming more destroyed. And the City of Ocean Shores trucks still use this road. We realize that our police department may be short-handed, which is why the follow-through on what Chief Logan has asked us to do. And we just really kind of wanted you to be aware of that, because Mayor is very open to hearing all of this, and we do really appreciate that. And I will give you a copy of this short list. Thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate you bringing it up. I will talk to the chief. I believe that we've had a conversation with Arrow in the past. Like any traffic things, you know, sometimes it's hit and miss as far as the enforcement, you know, when it gets there.
Right.
You know, so we're working on it, and I know that I've also received calls because we are doing more traffic enforcement, and our amount of tickets that we've given are up. So, but I will talk to Chief Logan. I will, Scott, you will follow up on. So what type of city trucks are going down?
I know that the pickup trucks don't count, but I really wish they did, because many companies and the city do pull heavy loads with their pickup trucks, but I know that that's not being addressed. I don't know if weight amounts can be posted under the no truck sign, and there is no sign at the beginning of Dolphin by the post office where Chancellor and Dolphin meet. There is no sign there. It is posted shortly after J.K. Lewis. And I actually did see one truck turn on J.K. Lewis, because then he did see the no truck sign. And so he did turn to go head over to Point Brown. I mean, it happens every day. Arrow Lumber actually honked at us one day because he knew he wasn't supposed to be there. I was talking with a neighbor out in the driveway. So that still continues. And Ace Hardware, I have extremely resisted contacting these companies myself. I'm leaving it in your hands. And I just kind of wanted you to be aware that it's kind of bad. And on that list is a school bus going 50 miles an hour as well. And
Okay.
number one is
I do not have any control over that.
no, I understand. But they're speeding, you know, and I know we can't control it, but anyway, if contact could be made with the main companies, that would be fabulous.
Okay.
And maybe it would help. We would
Okay.
appreciate that.
So could you check on the sign, and I'll
See if I can move the sign out.
yeah, right, okay.
Yeah, or add one down there. Thanks so much.
Okay, do you have another question?
Anyone else? Yep. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Carol Rhodes. Bob, my husband and I are part of a group called Voice for the City of Ocean Shores, and they work on multiple things, but right now our main thing that we're working on is trying to get a walk-in clinic here in Ocean Shores. We spend a lot of time in other parts of the country, and when we've seen urgent care there, they're open from Monday through Saturday and on Sundays. And that's, you know, we need something like that here. And I know some of the group has done a lot of research in finding out, should we just rent a place and try to get the equipment? It's very expensive. So right now, we think that probably if we could get in with CMAR, that would be the best bet. And we just kind of want to know what you feel about that. Having an urgent care, or not urgent care, a walk-in clinic here in Ocean Shores. What are your feelings about that?
So I have been having multiple conversations with our hospital, you know, of getting that. They give me, I guess, lip service. That, you know, they think they're interested in it. Some of it comes down to money. A big issue has to do with staffing. I personally believe a perfect world would be a partnership between CMAR, the hospital, the city, and the Quinaults. Perfect world of getting it, instead of having everyone kind of doing their own different thing. That I think I probably been right when I started as mayor. I had an initial conversation with I don't know exactly what his position is with CMAR.
I think it's called the COO.
Yeah, that could be. I think it'd be a good time for us to reach out and talk to them about what their vision of medical care in Ocean Shores is. I mean, because it's a beautiful facility, they just don't have enough people in there. And then to open it up, you know, because I talked to the hospital about the possibility of them renting a space for CMAR, staffing it, you know, not quite the urgent care that you're talking about, but I think if there's where people could go in and see somebody for a medical checkup or things like that would be there. We do kind of have an urgent care, and it's called our fire department. You know, I mean, but if you have like a broken arm or you need your blood pressure checked or whatever, I mean, unfortunately, that is the role that our fire department plays with it. But I have no problem of picking up the phone and seeing if we can start a discussion.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Like the one we go to down there, like I had broken my arm. Well, if we had to rent a place, buy a lot of equipment,
Yeah.
it's going to cost far more money to do that than if we could just work with CMAR.
Right.
And help, So
Yeah.
if you could set up a meeting with some of these leaders of these groups and some of us, that would be wonderful.
Okay, I can see what we can do on that.
And I can, is this on? I don't want to cross these two mics. Can you hear
Yeah,
this?
you good, you good.
Okay, which one? Okay, because I don't know, it went from being.
No, I can't hear you.
All right, now it's everything. Anyway, so the other thing we wanted to say is we've actually spoken to all of our representatives as well. We spoke with Representative Kilmer, we spoke to our local elected officials. They all, their suggestions they have the same problem. There's not money for the hospital district right now. Partner with the tribe in any way possible, and we've tried to open up those talks to see if the Quinault will be interested in opening a facility here. But to date, that just hasn't really moved forward. We haven't pushed the CMAR angle quite enough, but to see, even our own elected representatives, Jerry Kilmer, they're very frustrated by what we have for healthcare, not just here in Ocean Shores, but throughout the entire Olympic Peninsula. It's just that Squim was the one city that was able to get the tribe to open an urgent care clinic. And that would be a model we could look at, but the problem is, from what I've been told, the revenues just are not high enough, the Medicare recipients that we get in Ocean Shores, for them to make it financially profitable and make it worthwhile. But on the political end, we would push for that.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not going to use this mic anymore because it's crossing exactly what I feared would happen. So, all right, so we're sticking with this one. Go ahead, Jan.
Thank you. Just to follow up on that, I have an appointment with CMAR and it's 30 days out to get me in there. So, yes, and we say that we have an approximate population of 7,000 people, and that we have way more tourists coming in, and our average age is 57. You would think that this might be inviting for someone to come in. I realize the whole state and the United States we're lacking a lot of care all over. I realize we're not the only one. We're hoping that with more invites and more meetings, coming over and meet us, see what CMAR has. We'd love to have CMAR open up more for us. But again, with 7,000 approximate people here residing full-time, it's important that we get some help in here. And or an ambulance service on the corner out there at Hogan's would help also, we think. Thank you.
Okay.
Just to elaborate on what she said, it's a month for a medical appointment, it's 6 months for a dental appointment. That's in America. 6 months to get a dental appointment in America.
If it makes you...
I don't need a microphone, thank you.
No, I actually had, when I moved here, I registered for CMAR for dental. And then when I called in on the second one, because they lost one of their dentists. And then when I called in, they're like, we can get you in 6 months to get your teeth cleaned. And I'm like, I think I'm going to switch.
Unacceptable in America.
Yeah. So, but it's just a problem. I mean, it's a problem for all of us. So that's unfortunate. It's rural healthcare is hurting. Here you are.
And one more follow-up on that too is that there are a group here today, there's about 10 of us here, I think, that attend the Wednesday meetings at the Lions Club at 1 o'clock. And the main topic of discussion, as Carol said, has been this healthcare scenario. So we really appreciate anything that you can do to help us set up that meeting with this COO from CMAR. We would love to be a part of that and get it going. And Mr. Mayor, that would put you over the finish line.
Well, medical care has always been one of the top priorities that I have for Ocean Shores because we have an older population, it's needed, And I've been talking to, well, first of all, I was not in support of having our hospital district when the vote, I mean, I voted against it, didn't think it was the right thing, and in my mind, it didn't hold the hospital accountable to begin with. So we were kind of behind the 8 ball already, and we continue to be on it. And, you know, and I understand that the hospital or medical care in America is broken, and especially in rural America, it's broken. I constantly talk to our commissioners, our state representatives, our congressmen, our senators about it. They all nod their head. You know, my big question is, what are we going to do about it? And they just nod their head. You know, but I go to every meeting I can. We talk about it because we're in rural America, and you deserve to get medical care just like everybody else with it. So we just got to work through, and we're opening dialogue with the nation, and I believe because that is one of the things they're starting to focus on. And so I'm hoping that some of the medical things that they're building in Aberdeen that we can get, because, you know, perfect world, if you did Hogan's Corner and you had a medical facility out there, that would probably address a lot of the issues. But it's a lot of work, and if I get things set up, I will definitely reach out. I appreciate all the work that you guys are doing on the Wednesday meeting, because I know that I get calls from representatives of that group, you know, constantly, which I appreciate. But they're also doing more than just having the meetings. That there's people that are actually talking to the hospital district, and that the more voices you have, the more likely we'll get something done.
Mr. Mayor, my name is Nani Bacon, and I'm also a resident of Ocean Shores. Plus, I attend the meetings that they have for the Voices of the Shores. Number one is I want to back up Nancy, because I walk my dog on the roads there, and it's been quite a challenge not trying to get killed. I have to step off on the side and have my dog sit as the cars go away and the big trucks. Kudos for Nancy for doing this. The second thing that I wanted to bring up to you is that we are trying to get the COO of CMAR to come in and sit down with us for a meeting. Would you be willing to come in and sit there at our meeting to be able to hear what he has to say and give him some input?
Certainly, I said before, certainly I would. I mean, I got to get him to return my phone call.
Well, I have his phone number.
Okay.
I have his email address. I have his business phone number. So if you need it, I can make sure that you get it. The other thing is they need to restructure our hospital. I've been there as a patient a couple times, and I had to get a special procedure done with a CT scan. And I know they have the equipment there because I've had it done there a while ago. And when I called to go ahead and have it scheduled, they sent me or scheduled an appointment for me in Olympia. And I couldn't understand why when I know they have the machines there at the hospital. And it ended up me having 2 appointments for the same procedure, one in Olympia and one at the hospital in Aberdeen. So what I ended up doing was, I said, this is ridiculous. I am not driving to Olympia. So I canceled one so I wouldn't get billed twice. So what they need to do is sit down with their people. They need to figure out where the money should be going. It should be staying here in Grays Harbor instead of leaving and going to Olympia. And then number 2 is, at CMAR, when I first came here 3 years ago, I had 3 residents, or student, as they call it, student doctors, but these are interns. They graduated and they were trying to work off their student loans over there at CMAR. You don't see anybody over there. There aren't any residents. I want to know, what are they doing to recruit the newly graduating physicians so that they can come here, at least 1 or 2. I'm from Hawaii. We just recently saw 20 doctors, student doctors that graduated. I wrote to my old alma mater and asked, please send us 2. That's all we're asking. So anyway, that's all I had to say. Help us.
So Do you go to the hospital board meetings?
I tried before, I went twice.
Okay, because they're on Zoom.
Yes, but you can't say anything. You just have to listen, and it doesn't help when you cannot input.
Have you talked to Rich Hartman?
Yes,
Because he's been going.
yes,
and
but
and
they
he's-
would let him, but they won't let the public go in.
Well, but again, I know the citizens of Ocean Shores, you guys are very passionate when you see something wrong. So I'm thinking, let me talk to Rich, because he's the liaison for our council of a strategy, because at the very least, I'm sure that you guys can send multiple emails.
We did that.
And talk to Lynn Sonata.
Yeah, we did that.
Okay.
I even went to her office when I was down there at the hospital.
And they say they don't get back to you?
No, she was protected by her person who works with her, and I ended up sitting down with the gentleman and discussing what, we want here, our issues, and, what are they gonna do about it? And then what they said was, in order to take care of their staffing needs, they have shut down a couple of their rooms, like in the emergency room, and then cardiac people or patients that have cardiac issues, they are subjected or able to stay in one portion of the hospital instead of being sent to Olympia. So, they need to restructure that hospital so that it can be more profitable. And then, they can come and join us at our meetings on Wednesdays, and we can tell them all the issues they have, all the problems they have, and hopefully it won't fall on deaf ears. I also have one more question to ask you. When you guys voted to say, okay, we're gonna give you money to the hospital so that they can remain open, I didn't move into Ocean Shores yet. So, I felt like I didn't donate any money, so I want the money back. Is there any way that you can help us to get our money back and put it here so we can have a facility?
Personally, I don't think I've got that amount of power with it. But again, I think talking to them. I mean, I agree with a lot of the points that you make. I get frustrated too with the medical service there, and you would think that there would be a better system. And especially just the frontline service. I mean, just I got to go see a doctor because a lot of us, when they need to see a doctor, it's not because it's anything that's major, but you've got a flu or you need a shot or whatever, and there should be a smaller clinic that you can go in that you don't have to wait a month or 2 months to get that. Because that's ridiculous. I mean, when you're sick, right? With it. So
I camped out in my doctor's office because they told me, oh, you have to have an appointment to come in and see my doctor, my doctor.
Yeah.
So I said, you know what, I'm not leaving. I'm sick. I need help. And so I sat there in the waiting room and they got tired of looking at me. So they had me go and see whoever the doctor was that was on duty at that time.
Okay, well, I will continue. I can't guarantee anything because the hospital is not anything that I'm in charge of. But I am a person that pays taxes, and
So do I.
I do talk to them, and definitely have been on the side where we're talking about getting funding for the hospital from the state. But again, if they're going to get the money, they also need to do the service. So I'll continue to work. I'll work with Seymour, work with it, see if we can get something, and I'll talk to Rich on how do citizens. It's been a while since. Last time I was at a hospital board meeting was when we were meeting in person. So I don't know what their process is, but I'm all about open government. So the hospital should be the same thing. So
Also, I went to the clinic over here just recently because I had a blood pressure implement to learn how to use it, and I had to warn everybody when they came in. I don't have a heart attack. I don't have a fever. I don't need the ride, the ambulance. I just wanted to learn how to do this. So I had 8 people in the room with me. So,
did you go to Seymour or did you go to the
No,
fire
I went to
department?
the fire department.
Oh yeah, they're great. They're great. One of the first days that I was at at being mayor, because that's where my office is, that there was a person, I go, well, is that person okay? They go, yeah, they just want their blood pressure taken. I go, I didn't even know they did that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, our firefighters are great, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, I see a couple hands up. Here, I'm going this, and then Lily.
I just got a real quick comment that in our Wednesday meetings, I guess I was assigned to investigate some place to put a walk-in clinic. And I have talked to Jackie from Sunset Plaza. I've talked to Karen, her sister. I haven't talked to her father. But at one time, that was going to open up, and the pharmacy is supposed to change on Tuesday, I guess, next week. And Jackie, Jackie had said they really, really want something there, and they pushed so hard. And everybody knows about Ann Allen was there for a while. Doctor's office gave shots, did the whole bit. Well, now I guess the pharmacy is going to take over that extra space. But there is that Rite Aid, old Ace building that is still up for lease. And Jackie's the one that takes care of it. Her father does not because he's too old, he can't do the dealings anymore. Has anybody thought about maybe going to talk to her and try and grab that facility? I've heard there's doctors who live in Ocean Shores and nurses, and they says, I'd be willing to work here. I'll come here and work here if you had a facility. Talk to because he has been around for 100 years, and he knows about the city. He does everything he can to help this city. Maybe if they talk to them, to that family, they can work something out to get a facility, and that's a start. It may not be much, but it's a start. If we have a facility, then we can start building on that and have doctors, nurses, just a walk-in clinic. Talk to the Sunset Plaza people first, though.
Well, and again, we as a city, unless the citizens want to come up with a funding system to do that, is our barrier. I mean, because I would have to be authorized by our city council and ultimately you as citizens to move forward. And I don't think we as a city are prepared to run a medical facility. I mean, I've got enough issues with just day-to-day stuff. But I have talked to our hospital district about that. Originally, the plan was that they were going to do a small medical clinic in where the pharmacy's going. So this is the first news I've heard that that space is gone. That I know that we've had conversations with the Morris family about other things, and it's been difficult to proceed forward with it. So, and there's just things you have to go through, but there's certain things that I can do as mayor and work on, but when it goes to the medical, that is, I can talk to people, but the cost is the big part of it. You know, that I personally don't believe that there is any, we can find, if we had where they were going to commit doctors or even nurse practitioners to get that, and they were going to fund that, we can find a spot. I mean, that to me, that is the easiest thing we can do. We could rent a room at Seymour if we needed to. I mean, that's not what our issue is. Going to find people in there. But again, I'll continue to talk to our providers. You know, again, we'll be talking to Seymour, we'll be talking to the hospital district, talking with the criminals, talking about, I know that we even reached out to, is it Virginia Mason? They do, I mean, they're just like a big company. Would they be interested in relocating in Grace Harbor, which they said no. But we haven't given up. But again, creative thinking, who knows, maybe we come stumble on something. But thanks.
Lillian?
I'd like to move on to a little lighter topic. And maybe something you can do something about. First, I want to say thank you to the fire department. In the last few weeks, we've had a friend in hospice, and all of us old folks were unable to lift her. And We called the fire department, they weren't out on a call, they took 5 minutes out of their time, but what a service that was. They were incredible. But now to my complaint. I always have to have one. You've got a beautification group that's put a lot of time and energy in trying to make the entry to Ocean Shores look good again. And when I drove into town the other night, I saw once again it's littered with political signs. And these are mostly county, but for years and years and years we avoided that mess at the gates. And over the last few years, it's reared its ugly head, and people coming into Ocean Shores are greeted by political wannabes or whatever it is. But is there a way, I know they're not supposed to have signs on city property. And I believe that the gates are city property, are they not?
Well, the problem that we have is freedom of speech. Well, that's not a problem that we have, but as far as dealing, yeah, that's a good thing. But the question is of where you can have signs when you can't have signs. Now, they can have it on city property, but they can't have it past the mow line. And I know the signs you're talking about, and to me, they're in
planted in among the plants that we're trying to get.
Right. You know, so that's where I'm just kind of, because when I first saw them, you know, my first thing is, well, maybe I should have Public Works do it, but I don't want to get myself in trouble with that. You know, and then I thought, well, maybe I could pick up the phone and ask them if they could move them, but then would that be because I have a political agenda, which I don't want to get myself in trouble with there. So I'm in a quandary of what I'm supposed to do, because I agree with you, you know, that I'm okay with the signs when they're in that back, you know, where they typically are.
Right.
But where the signs are now are a new place that we've never had the signs.
They're on the place that's being landscaped.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I know that there are plans to do plantings there.
Yeah.
It seemed to me, I think most people care about the norms, and I'd sure like to get back to having the norms apply to politics.
And they are all people that are not from Ocean Shores.
These are all people not from Ocean Shores.
Right.
Right. I can actually add one thing to that.
Okay.
With the mic. And the only thing I'll add is that Washington State actually has some of the most stringent political campaign sign laws in the entire nation. And they can literally, like, actually in the right of way in my house, they could put up a campaign sign and I'm not allowed to remove it, you know, on my own private property. So all it's going to take is, like, you know, we send the street department out there, start pulling out those signs, and the next thing you know, we're getting sued and we're getting fined. We can ask the city attorney what, if any, rights we have on that, but I think it's pretty few, to be honest with you.
But we have been able to
Thank you.
enforce.
Unfortunately for TV at home, we've got to talk with this thing.
We have been able to enforce that at the convention center, and up until just recently, we've been able to enforce it at our parks. And I believe it's on the books.
Yeah, I will reach out to our attorney once again with it, because it seems like every 4 years we have this conversation. And I just don't want to get myself in trouble for doing something.
Well, I think a bunch of us ought to just start calling those people and telling them how offended we are.
But you can do that.
I can do that.
All right, okay. Jan, okay, you and then Jim. No, we'll just go on this one. And I put on the back and raise, did you still want to talk?
No, I'm good.
Okay, because you raised your hand and I know I didn't get out of you.
I just want to add about the medical thing. I don't need the mic.
All right.
Okay.
Well, no, but we do for TV, that's the problem.
Oh, okay.
Therein lies the problem. So anyone watching at home can't hear your
I
comment.
worked at Harborview Medical Center for 10 years, and I'm pretty sure that we could.
Yeah.
Okay. We could hook up with a pilot project to get some medical students. That's all I was going to add to that. Okay. Just tonight.
So for those at home, she's at Harborview Medical Center. All right.
You done.
Mm-hmm. All right. I feel like Bill Donahue or something.
Also, to the medical thing, when everybody's asking, because it boils down to dollars, funding, where do we get the money for the building, for the walk-in thing,
And right now, I think we're being paid we pay a fee to the city of Ocean Shores through our utility bill every month to help pay ambulatory type fees. And I don't know what that number is off the top of my head, but if we had a walk-in facility, that would alleviate some of that pressure on that ambulatory, the fire department, the EMTs. And so they wouldn't need all that. So maybe, and I'm not saying let's take all their, no, but we could split it in half with them, or 2/3 to a walk-in clinic and 1/3 still go to the EMTs for ambulatory, because they've helped me, they've been out to my house before, so I don't want to take anything from them, but there's some money right there that we could look at maybe that might, because if there's somebody probably heard the word 7,000 people, you times $30 or $40, whatever it is we pay, there's a little bit of cash there. Maybe we can take that to rent a walk-in facility. Just a thought, just an idea.
No, actually, that's a really good, yes, we have talked about that.
Thank you.
We have talked about that, because you're right, that if we do a run, one of our firefighters, or one of our units do a run, minimum, they are gone for about an hour and a half. Because 45 minutes in there and they got to come back, and then we lose 2 firefighters because that's what we staffed it with. If we could reduce some of those runs dramatically, that would help us. And so I've always thought is if we could get some other partners doing it, is there an argument that we could make that we could help assist funding it? I mean, because we even threw out the idea of the possibility of having someone on staff at the fire department, be a partner with CMAR, But again, it's like we probably, as a city, we probably could finish a project, but I got to get some big people to do the majority of the
Indian tribe, very good.
Yeah.
That's a good source.
Yeah, because they have they have the money, but they also have they get a higher reimbursement rate than a private hospital. So we're looking at it. That's a good idea.
Jen?
Regarding the political signs, I believe it's on the code and stuff, but is it 5 feet or 10 feet the city owns from the center back in? Okay, and those signs, all political signs are allowed. If you have an open house sign, it's only allowed during the day. It has to be removed, and some people aren't aware of that. But political signs are allowed. There might be a way, if you talk to the attorney on the front entrance, where it is irritating some people, that there might be a way to have an exclusion there to talk to the attorney. But otherwise, I can have a sign on my property, or a political person can put the sign up to 5 feet off the side, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So, and it is free speech, and it's the right of the person running, so thank you.
Right. I just don't want to be on the news because I did something.
Before anyone else? All right, all yours.
Mr. Mayor, the young lady, she said there's a training facility over there at the hospital. There is the doctor or clinic, 1 floor up on the 4th floor, that's been training nurse practitioners. And they're coming in from the college, the junior college that's out there. And he said that what they were doing was trying to see if they can graduate more nurse practitioners so they can come into our area. So can you look into that?
Yeah, I've actually talked to the Grace Harbor Community College and what their program is, and you're right, our 2 hospitals, that's one of the things they're working on, because they want to create, a career path. You go to Grace Harbor Community College, you get your degree, and then you go work at one of our hospitals. I mean, they're working on that, So again, I don't know where CMAR is in that loop, because I have not asked the question on CMAR what their process is.
Thank you.
There's one over here. Yes.
In regard to the response by the fire department with the 8 cars going out of town, I have a real issue with that because, first of all, we don't have a volunteer network like we used to have. they could fill in those gaps when we have our manpower down below minimum. So now when we have a couple of rigs going out of town for a lengthy time, we're in a hurting problem. We've had some bad issues that have come up. So I want to know how we're going to alleviate that. There seemingly no interest in creating more volunteers like we used to have. Is that something that we can address? Because a lot of folks, in my experience, they love being volunteers, and they live here in town, and they're ready for a response. So I'd like to see that initiated again, because as long as we're continuing to provide our own ambulance service, which we shouldn't be doing, they should be responding in our town, not beyond. Maybe we can open up that to an option where the fire department can agree to allowing an ambulance service.
We'll speak to the first part, but maybe the second part's a little different. But the first part is, just so you know, becoming a volunteer for the fire department now is not like it was 10, 15 years ago, where you could just do it if you were healthy and able-bodied. The requirements to be a volunteer firefighter in the state of Washington are so stringent that almost no one wants to do it now. It's just almost an impossibility. You have to go through the same amount of trainings, the same amount of required classes and coursework to be a volunteer than you almost have to be a firefighter. So it's very, very hard to recruit volunteers. We've even tried to partner times with the North Beach High School, where we would have people that would then learn how to be a firefighter, and even that, it's really difficult to do. There was a time, even 5 years ago, where if you had an ad for a firefighter in the newspaper, you'd have 500 people that would apply to train for, to apply for 3 positions that were open in this firehouse. Now it's the exact opposite. Now we can't get firefighters. I mean, you already can't get volunteers, we can't even get firefighters. So the only way we're going to remove that barrier about people going out of town is one of two things. Yes, we either have a different ambulance service, but from what I understand about that, not because of anything the city would do, it would be almost impossible to do because of Grace Harbor Medical, and that they would not really allow us to have an ambulance service. I think that Dr. Buck said that they can, don't know, I'd be better off to ask Chief Tyree. They could have something like, 1 per county, and that Ocean Shores would not likely be given that license, but let me let the fire chief answer that. But for the answer of volunteers, we try to get volunteers. It's just, unless you're going to be a professional firefighter, people aren't volunteering to do it, because it's the requirements and the insurance purposes, it's just too stringent.
And just going back to the ambulance service, that Ride to Wellness, which is in Grace Harbor, they looked at being out here, and of course this was like 3 years ago they looked at it, but financially they couldn't make it work, because again, to make it work they've got to have X amount of calls, and you don't know when the calls are coming in, so their model is more of picking up somebody and transporting them versus an emergency call. But again, we'd be willing to talk to Ride to Wellness or something to that. I know that Summit Pacific has just contracted with a ambulance service to transport to Olympia. And the hope is that takes the pressure off, because right now, if we send one of our units there and they go, okay, this person needs to be transported to Olympia, we've got to take them the rest of the way to Olympia or to Seattle, and that's where we really lose people. So again, volunteers, really hard to get now. If you look at all the volunteer fire departments, they're struggling. I think that's where you're seeing a lot more regional fire districts coming on board, because you need to have professional firefighters to cover a bigger area. We've talked about how can we get more volunteers, and we are actively recruiting, but we're just not getting them.
District 7 to the north of us and District 8, even farther up the coast, they both approached us about the potential long-term of merging with our fire department, because they're volunteer fire departments, and they just can't get staff. They simply can't get them.
So why is it so restricted to get an ambulance service out here?
Well, I'm not saying there's restriction. You've got to get an ambulance service that wants to be out here.
But if our 8 cars are running out of town all the time, it seems like they would have plenty of jobs. I mean, an ambulance would have plenty of jobs. Well, when I say that we're running out of time all the time, it's relative, because in order for them to staff, I mean, if you're going to have an ambulance service, they need to be stationed out in Ocean Shores with it, and they've got to be able to pick those things up. So I don't think there's anything that
that keeps them from doing it. It's just that when they looked at it before, it didn't make sense, because they are dealing with the same rate structure that we would be dealing with.
I will.
Though has it been since one of these ambulance services has checked out here, because we've grown, we've got so many more people now.
Yeah.
I will do this, if you both leave me your email addresses or leave them with her, I'll have Tyree right back to you, because he can explain this much better than I can, because he has to communicate with the Grace Harper Medical all the time, and he can explain it better than I can, and he'll be back tomorrow, so.
I just wanted to know who put all this together about the new requirements for volunteer firefighters. I mean, where did that come from?
I would say you need to blame your state legislators. I mean, because not only firefighters and the requirements they have there, if you look to see what the requirements for a daycare provider is, it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, that what happens in my mind, this is not me talking for the city, this is just my own opinion, that special interests have got in there and made it so restrictive. So it makes it so if you're going to do something that would be more cost effective, it's almost impossible. If you look at the rules that they put in on our police departments now, again, you know, I don't think what starts as a good idea gets to Olympia and it becomes a very bad idea. Unintended consequences, and then we have to deal with it. And then of course they put no funding ability to do that, you know, so it's frustrating. And when I go talk to our state representatives, they agree with it, but a lot of the policies come out of the Seattle area.
Well, and I mean, I just add like a funny anecdotal comment to that. This the other day, I was talking about with our HR director. I went to like a Little League baseball game because my girlfriend is one of the coaches for the school. And I went into the dugout, and it said, you are not allowed in the dugout unless you have passed and been registered under this RCW to certify that you are not a sex offender. I mean, and, you know, and I'm just like, I'm sitting in a dugout, and I'm not even allowed in that anymore. So you can just imagine between the unions and various bureaucracies within the state of Washington, right, and the legislature, it's volunteers, and also for legal reasons, for the city, it's dangerous for us to take on volunteers. We have to do a lot of waivers with our volunteers because volunteer gets hurt out there, we get sued. And you know, I'm the guy who has to run our insurance risk pool for the city and keep track of all of that. And it's just, you're always, you know, anytime you build anything, anytime you build a structure, anytime you like extend stairs, there's the risk you're running a lawsuit on anything like that. I'll go back, and then if you hand it back to her after you're done.
Just short.
Sure.
I appreciate your input on that, and I kind of wanted to hear a second what was in my head, where that was coming from, so I guess we have to watch who we vote for.
Yep.
Mr. Mayor, we had a person that came in for Susan's get-together. Her thing was PC something or other, and he was there from the private ambulance service. It's a non-emergent BLS service. And he said he's working out of Aberdeen, and he hasn't come here. He's trying to come in here, but he's being blackballed by the fire department.
When you say blackball, what does that mean?
They said he cannot come in. You know, and so we said, why? You know, we're trying to free up our fire people and using the private sector for transporting our people who are going to be going to the hospital instead of using our firemen. And so, are you aware of that?
This is a little more Tyree, what I was talking about with them.
Okay.
There's a reason that Dr. Buck and Grace Harper won't. They will only issue a certain number of licenses, and I don't want to say something that's just wrong.
So we need to ask this experts, and we'll get back to you. So make sure you leave
I will make a photocopy and then bring it over to your office.
Okay, because that's the first that I've heard of that. So
Okay.
So Scott,
Yeah,
it'll
it's
be
not the
part of
first I've heard of it, and there's a reason why the county actually won't authorize that, not so much our fire department, for licensing purposes, but let me give you the official story.
And then one other tip on that too, when we brought that Wednesday group, when we brought in the hospital council members, and we also brought in, Vicki Raines was there and so forth. There was a gentleman, I'm sorry, I can't think of his name, from Westport, He was the mayor, I
Michael
think, of
Bruce.
Westport.
Former mayor,
Okay, and-
Michael Bruce.
Okay, thank you. And I believe he had actually established a relationship with an ambulance company for Westport. So if they can do it, why can't we?
Well, again, I don't have the answer, so.
But maybe he's a good resource to.
Okay.
I don't know.
Westport didn't have any ambulance.
Was that what it was? I'm curious. Because I think I remember that was the one that got the license.
They did not have ambulance service through their fire department.
Okay.
That would, in their regional district now, and that possibly would make sense, but we'll get the right
As I get
answer.
jigsaw puzzle with some of the pieces, and I don't want to say, yeah, it's done.
Right.
Let me give you the actual answer.
So is the fire department the one that doesn't want it? Because they're making more money, they running these people to the city?
No, I think they would actually, for the most part, from when I talked to the firefighters, they would rather not be spending their time driving 4 hours a day and doing that. I mean, it's not as bad as it was because under COVID, I mean, they were often going all the way to Olympia. And it's just not a fun run. So I think they'd rather not be doing that. But
Not to mention the price of gas is going up so
Yeah.
much more, and for them to be driving that much farther all the time, and that we're just, and it's just go cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching is all I'm hearing.
well, and you're hitting both the things, like the fact we don't have medical, you have to drive all the way to Aberdeen, Hoquiam to get, any kind of medical care. So that's the first one that we mentioned, and then the fact that we only have one service that can get you in and out of there.
And
So
we're just, and then cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching is all I'm hearing. It's, wow, man, let me stop at the gas station on the way out.
I don't want to beat a dead horse, so I won't do that. But last week at our Wednesday meeting, I jokingly said, could it be that the firefighters would be concerned about losing any, I don't know, amount of pay or overtime? By making all these extra runs, because I don't know, and I love our firefighters, our first responders, so don't even try to overstep that. But what I said was, if we did have this walk-in clinic scenario, and thank you, Mayor, you did indicate that possibly one of them could sort of suffice as some staffing for that scenario. I think I heard you say that. And I made a big joke about, hey, we could just have them run next door to the Seymour building and help us out. So it was a joke, but hey.
Oh, no, I mean, no, again, that was kind of my hope when they built Seymour. I mean, I was very excited when it first came here, and everything that I think that the citizens want in this room is what we were hoping that Seymour was going to provide.
My name is Caroline, and I have a completely different topic that I want to ask about. I have only been a resident of Ocean Shores since January, but we've owned property here for 2.5 years, so we've been paying property taxes and have no voice. So it didn't take me long to find the voice of the Shores group once I moved here. My question has to do with, a couple of months back, we had a meeting about a piece of property, and it was mentioned that all of this new construction, land clearing, and everything that was going on required a permit to do this. I've seen a lot of land getting cleared and things being built. I've never seen a permit. Where are they supposed to put the permit so that we can see that it's something they're supposed, because we were told at that meeting, you be the eyes and ears for the code enforcement people, and if you see something happening and you don't see a permit, let them know, because they can't go driving around the whole peninsula to find these things. I've not seen a permit.
Okay, so-
How will I know?
Well, I'll let Scott.
And what should we do if we see something?
Okay, so first of all, if we had a session just like this, which we had Marshall, who is our
lead planner for the city.
lead planner, and he's the one that does inspections. We have more red tags than we've ever had, which means that we've shut down projects because they have not followed the process. We were having a problem because it used to be that you would have to post the permit, but people were taking the permits down to do it. But we have the phone number. Do you know the phone number?
Well, so you're referring to two things. So number one, yeah, for a clearing and grading permit, it's supposed to be posted on a red one, right out in front, and you should be able to see it. And if it's not, there is the off chance it's been taken down, or that can happen sometimes. But code enforcement is who you call. That's correct, and I don't have the number for code enforcement, but
It's probably under the city.
yeah, exactly. So you call code enforcement, and then what happens is, code enforcement, Sean will go out there and make a report, and then Marshall will look and see if they ever pulled a permit on it. That's his job, is to see if they actually, do they have a valid permit? Most of the time, believe it or not, they do. But yeah, and that is another thing, that's correct. And they will often have it on their phones as well, so they can show it, because when Marshall goes out to look and say, hey, do you have a permit? Or Sean goes out, they say, yeah, actually, look, this is our permit. It's been much better, but we are doing record growth. I mean, it's started to slow down in the last 3 months, with home prices sort of hit their peaks that they may not come down from. I mean, it may only come down. They may not going up anymore. Our permitting is starting to slow. We have interest rates starting to rise, and then you've had inflationary pressures that have just pressed, buying a home increasingly. Unless you're selling in Seattle and buying in Ocean Shores, being a first-time home buyer is not really an option in Ocean Shores anymore. And we've had people that we've interviewed for positions that are in other parts of the country, like for our potential public works director. They've turned it down because they can't afford to live in Ocean Shores anymore. I mean, believe that, from 3 years ago, where that would not have been an issue. And now people are seeing prices and they're like, I'll go you and then you.
Well, I got a simple question. When these contractors come in and they purchase this property, what is the first step that is requirement for them to do? I always thought that they had to survey the property so that they know where they're clearing. Scott remembers, they came into my property and they cleared all my second land, and then he walked up and knocked on the door and says, do you know where the property lines were? Because this contractor did not know, it was never surveyed. After they got the framework, the wooden framework for the concrete foundation, all of a sudden you see a survey come putting tags up, they're surveying the property. After you've already cleared my property, cleared their property, getting ready to put it in, then they do the survey. Is there some kind of timeline that they have to go by? You have to get a survey before you start cutting down somebody else's trees.
I can guarantee you that was absolutely not standard procedure what happened to you. And that was a company that, I don't know, did you ever actually work that out? Did they pay you compensation for that?
Nothing.
Really?
Unacceptable.
They say they're going to put up a fence, but they have done nothing for me.
Oh, they have to still pay you.
I don't know, yeah, you should.
Let's go talk to
The
Jack.
hope and the wish of prayer doesn't work if they don't follow through.
Oh, no, absolutely. That was one of the worst things that I've ever seen. I mean, I had a city councilman who came and got me out of my office and said, they're plowing the wrong lot. And we had to have that twice. We're contractor surveyors, because they'll come in from out of town, they'll come in from other places, and then someone finds that their lot has been cleared, and no one is very happy. Unfortunately, the city, we can find people and they do things like that, but private business is private business. I can't.
It's unfortunate that someone told me later, the gentleman that cleared the property, I was just as pleasant as can be, would surprise everybody. I didn't go crazy. But unfortunately, God rest his soul, he passed away 2 days after he cleared my property. So that was kind of a bad thing. They all blame me because I get them too excited. But that's not the case. But
The gentleman that I met when I went out there?
yes, he had passed away 2 days after he cleared my property.
Okay.
So it's unfortunate, but the question is, how come they don't survey this property and guarantee, okay, the lines were marked because the city come out and marked my property lines, marked in the street, marked it everywhere, but he could not see it because his bulldozer was parked on top of the signs on the street and he couldn't see them.
Yeah, well, and that shouldn't happen. They should survey, they get the permits before they're supposed to be going. I can tell you that if you've not met Marshall, Marshall is probably one of the best people we've got in the city. He takes it very serious, that he will go out and he'll do the inspection, and anytime that Scott or I get phone calls, because someone's clearing or a tree's gone down, first call, we call Marshall, and usually he already knows about it. And then Sean Beebe, code enforcement, that he's the one that is kind of the streets, you know, that he drives around and sees stuff. So we're looking for it, and I think that we're doing much better than we were doing, because it was just kind of like, whatever. But once we put Marshall on the job, that dramatically improved it.
I was just recently told that the permits now are not just hanging on somewhere or covered up with plastic. They're in a tube, those blue tubes with the two white end things so that they don't get destroyed. So if somebody comes by, they can say, well, here's, you know. And then on Facebook just recently, somebody had removed the old pins and put it to their favor. So who are you supposed to call to have that checked out?
Maybe I didn't understand, remove the old pins?
The boundary pins.
Okay, so if someone like moves it?
Yes. Yeah, the stakes. They moved it because it was to their favor instead of to the homeowner's favor. So who are you supposed to call about that?
Probably, and this is probably the county, because it's going to be the county land, it's going to be the county recorder that has that, but you could probably call.
They said to go and look for the plans and see where the old pins were.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to win, the county's the one who's going to adjudicate what the property line is. We don't do that at the city. That's the county that does that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? God, you guys really have been nice to us. I thought you guys were going to be honest about what we're doing in the city instead of the medical stuff, so I would have prepared differently.
Well, we do have a topic for next time. No, we do have a topic for that. I mean, we want to bring the fire department out here to discuss.
Right, no,
those issues.
yeah, no, I think that's good. We'll talk to Mike about that. So we'll do a conversation where we have our fire department and get there. So one of the things I thought, we'd get questions on is about the potential police station. So my role as mayor is to look to see what does the city need, and prioritize and figure out, can we afford it? Does it make sense? What should we do? And so the police station, even before I was on city council, my first time that I went through the police station, and I was not under arrest when I was in the police station, this is unacceptable. I mean, that if you look at the walls, you look at the floors, you look at just the cramped space, I thought that we needed to do something. And of course, I was on the council and we didn't do anything. If you've been around for a while, we used to have a lake that was out in front of it, so if it rained, you couldn't even get to the police station because it was so big. So the council did fix the lake, and then we didn't have a decent sally port, which is where you bring a prisoner in and it's secure so they can't run away. And we did that. And then that was, in that building is the generator that drives all of the city power emergency equipment. It's not in the fire department, but it's in the police department, because the police department is our first responders anytime that there's a emergency, tsunami's coming, the police department is the one that takes it. So it's very inadequate, and then our police officers have to share a desk, and our evidence room is in a storage thing. So it's in really bad shape. So we were looking at it, and then there was no talk of actually doing anything with the police station until the movie theater closed. And then at that time, Crystal Dingler, the mayor, brought forward of what is the possibility of us purchasing that. We looked at it, and it was how much?
$8.7 million.
$8.7 million. Council felt that was too much money, and we walked away from it. And it's
purchased and renovated, just to be clear.
Right. And it probably works out to be a good thing, because now we still have a movie theater, and they're doing a great job there. And so with that, the council said we should look at other options. And at our time, building from scratch, we thought would be cheaper. And so Scott went and put out, had designs for 3 different properties. Do you want to explain where they are?
Yeah, so we looked at 3 different things, because obviously we need a new police station. So the first one we looked at is, what if we put the police where they currently are? And, relocated them for 2 years. And the relocation for 2 years or the year and a half, that alone would be expensive. But the problem with that law is it's so small that you would have to build a 2-story structure. And then once you start building a 2-story structure anywhere, that's a municipal government building, and you're paying prevailing wage, which you have to do, and then you have to put in an elevator, so it has to be ADA compliant for everything, because that's what we have to do. The cost skyrocketed to about almost $2.8 million, I think, or $12.8 million, sorry, $12.8 million to build that from scratch there. And we have a lot that's right across from where the current fire station is. Slightly better location, slightly cheaper, because we wouldn't have to dig out all the infrastructure that's in the ground, the piping and all of that. But the setbacks are the same problem because of the canal. So we have to, by law, by our own rules, be certain, so far from the canal, it would again require a 2-story structure. And that, I think, came in at like $12.3 million, or no, even higher than that, $13.3 million or something. And then the one that we sort of looked at, okay, we want to obviously build a 1-story structure. We know that shaves money, that'll save us, that'll save the taxpayers, it's easier. And we looked at the lot that's immediately behind Bennett's, which is currently where like the trash cans are located, the garbage bins, and the recycling thing is. And that was sort of like the best thing. We could build a 1-story structure, we could do it about $12.3 million, but no one likes the location now. So it's kind of like porridge too hot, porridge too cold. So then we're looking at we have several options, but I think the option that makes most sense is we own properties that are on the golf course itself, that are adjacent on the golf course that the city already owns. We wouldn't have to buy anything new, wouldn't have to add any cost to the taxpayers. So right now, the preferred plan would be to take one of those lots, subdivide it, and put the police station there on one of those lots. Because right now, those are the 2 lots that we're looking really to sell at some point, and we tried to sell them earlier in the year because they're zoned commercial. They're right across from the hotels. So those are kind of the most valuable lots in the city. That, if a new hotel were to be built in the city, if a new mall were to be built in the city, it would most likely be located there. But we may end up having to use part of one of those lots for the police station, and they are big enough to house it. So that would solve that issue for us.
And so the current police station was built in 1990. It's a modular unit. It was, at that time, we had 2,200 people living here. So we've grown up quite a bit. And so it just doesn't meet what our needs are. And so the question is, as Scott outlined the different thing, is that as my political leanings, I just don't like to tax people. I mean, I just, it's one of those things that you want to make sure that you make the right thing. So in order to get it done, the question is how do you get it done? Now we had a levy sewer bond drop off, and so you've probably seen a slight improvement, and that was of your taxes. $1.11 is what rolled off. And so if we go to the new bond, 12 million, and you go, where'd the 12 million come from? Because that's a lot of money, and it is. And I totally understand that it's a lot of money. But I don't want to make the mistake that other mayors have made, because what I do is, because I don't know what I'm doing, is I pick up the phone and I call and I talk to people. Talk to me. And I talked to like 4 different cities who've had cost overruns on their whatever they're doing. And I go, well, and I start walking through, because one mayor I was talking to, how'd you guys even think that you could build it for that amount? And they go, well, we knew we didn't have the money. Our intention was we were going to get the bond, and then we were going to get more money after that. I don't want to play that game. I want to say this is the amount of money that it's going to cost us, and ideally, that if we have money left over, we're going to take that money and we're going to put it back to retiring the bond. And our council has voted, that is in our resolution, that if we have money left over, the money from that bond will go back. I had an option of 20, 25, or 30-year bond. We have enough money to pay it off in 20 years, and probably even quicker if we could do that. But So the new one, I mean, even though $1.11 is rolling off, and then what we're asking would be 53 cents to add back on. So it's still less than it needs to be. But as Scott outlined, everyone has a different opinion of where it should be. And, you know, so they didn't like people didn't like the movie theater, didn't like the 3 options, and there were all good reasons why they didn't like it. People, you know, suggested, well, there's some empty property that we could purchase. You know, I picked up the phone and go, are these things for sale? And they're not. You know, and of course that would add to the cost. Then someone looked at the plans and go, well, we could do it cheaper. We could do modular, because Woodland did 4 modular, and they got a city council chamber, and that was done. What would
2013?
Yeah. So it's been a while. They did it, and it cost them at that time about $4.5 million. So today's number is probably double it. And so I talked to the mayor there. He's not happy with it. He says it's got condition issues. I sent our police chief down there to do a tour of it, and she basically came back with the same thing, because it's modular, because you can't upgrade it, especially from the electrical point of view. And if you have lived in Ocean Shores for a while, you know what the weather does to just building. You know, so corrosion is definitely an issue. So I still think stick-built is the way to go. But ultimately, it's going to be you in the audience here that decides whether or not, you know, that it's a good idea or not. You know, we're going to have plenty of sessions where we have the police chief explaining what the needs are, but our police department right now does not meet the requirements the state requires us of interview rooms, ADA. I mean, just go down the list. So that's the reason why that I'm bringing it forward. And Ocean Shores has done a very good job being financially responsible, and we haven't taken on a bond since I've been on the council. And it was a hard sell for me to do it, but every time I go in that police station, I look, and especially to me, public safety is our #1 priority for our city. You know, police and fire is what we need. And I look at our police officers in there, and it just drives me crazy. You know, we looked at on a temporary basis to bring to do it's not a mobile home, but a thing to add to it. We could do that, and we can't, because sewer, water, our codes don't do it. And then at the council meeting, which the council voted yes, there are some people that were upset because we did it on the first reading. My view is we really did do it. We did it on the first reading, but what all the council did was vote to put it on the ballot. You are the ones that are going to do the second reading. You guys are going to make a decision whether it's a good idea or not. You know, I have listened and talked to everyone that I could talk to about what should we do, and end of the day, this is to me the best idea that we have, because I don't think modular is going to work. I talked to Scott and I talked to our architect. Could we come down on price? You know, is there things that we could do? And to get the requirements the state requires us, that we're kind of stuck what we have. But again, whatever we do, Ocean Shores is going to grow, so we need to have the ability to expand. But again, one of the biggest things that I want to get done in the city, besides the the police station, but to institute the volunteer police program. You know, that, you know, people can drive around and check and make sure the houses aren't being broken in and things like that. But right now, I don't have any place to put them. So that's kind of where it's coming. That's where I thought you guys were going to be mad at me, you know, because we were bringing that forward with it. But we're going to have a lot of conversations. We're going to start the budgeting process along with that. And one of my goals is that we'll have 3 listening sessions on what you guys want to see in our budget coming up, because we're going to start working on that. So if you have ideas of what you would like to see the city spend their money on, I know that there's a lot of priorities that we have, like fresh waterways, High Dune Trail. I mean, there's some things that we already have out there, but again, you know, that we want to be open and we want to be responsive to you as the citizens of what the future of Ocean Shores is. And I think that's the most important thing that we look at. What do we want Ocean Shores to be? You know, and sometimes it's good, you got to spend some money to do it. But again, I want to be responsible, because the one thing, you know, someone asked you, what keeps you up at night? What keeps me up at night is I do not want to be the mayor that ends up financially ruining the city. You know, because, you know, we have a history. We have a history where the city didn't know how to turn the spigot off. I'm very conscious, because I'm concerned about, you know, just the economy, everything that's going on there, but I think we're solid financially. I think that as long as we don't get over our skis and hire too many people, I think we're going to be okay. I think those would be the right thing, but we'll have a lot more conversations. And I saw a hand up over there.
Just the new police station, are we going to have our own jail?
No, we can't.
That would generate an income for the county if you were housing the people here.
I think by law, and this is where Chief Logan would be good, we can hold someone only up to, is it 2 or 4 hours before we have to transport them. It's one of those two numbers, I can't remember which one it is.
But if we had our own jail, you could keep it here.
Well, if we have our own jail, the municipal requirements to have our own jail would be just a wholly different set of things. I mean, I could have Chief Logan speak to you for that, but.
A resource to generate income for the new building.
More questions? Yes.
I'd like to make a statement. We have the South End Fire Station down there, and I'm not for sure exactly how large that property is. I'm going to go down and measure it and get on the city, or get on the county and see how big it is. But I think there's enough room down there to put the new...
Hold the mic up so I can hear you. Hold it
He's
up.
talking
Hold it
up.
up.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. I think it's large enough we could put a police station down there. I also don't like the idea of stick-built, because I own a stick-built house here, and I came from Arizona, and we built out a cement and cement block there. I priced an 8/8/16 split-face block, which is very nice. It goes natural, or you can paint it, and it's just right at $2 a block right now with the price increase. So I'd like to see it go that way. We could buy the blocks ahead of time and store them in the city lot that we have here, and it comes 90 blocks in a cube. So we could buy 90 blocks at a time, which would be a pallet, and do it that way. The 2 lots that you were talking about on Hotel Row over there, we could sell, because those are premium lots, and use that money for the police station. So I think we need to get like an ad hoc committee or some really minds together and see what would actually be the best possible way. Personally, I don't think we need to have a police station on Hotel Row. So thank you.
Okay, well, thanks for the comment. And one of the things that, yes, originally the vision, my vision was that we would sell those 2 pieces of property to help fund the police station. Council wasn't supportive of moving forward on that. Council wasn't supportive of the area behind Bennett's. And the longer we try to do something, the more likely that we're not going to do that. And my position is, and I know that people will be irritated, and this might be the reason why that it doesn't pass, because it's got to get 60%. So I know I've got to get the majority of the people. But sometime in Ocean Shores, we just got to get something done. You know that if we could have figured out a compromise, we would have sidewalks on Point Brown. We had it fully funded, but we had to turn it away because we couldn't come up with whether we wanted meandering sidewalks, straight sidewalks, or whatever. You know, Ocean Shores kind of has a history of where we get all the way up to the 1 yard line and then we walk away. You know, and so I'm kind of, I hear what you're saying about blocks, and I have not actually looked at blocks, so definitely we can ask that question. But as far as just the location, I've been chasing location for 2 months, and every location I come up with, someone doesn't like it. You know, so we're kind of at the, let's look at property that we actually have, that we can do it, because if you go into negotiation for property that you don't own, and it's a city, I could just imagine what the price is. But again, we have.
We have looked, we've gone to a realtor and asked about several various properties that are either not for sale or they're being held, or, you know, and we're trying to keep this low to taxpayers. The other thing is the police really do want to be near the commercial district and near the north end of town, though.
The town's only 7 miles long, though. Your police cruisers can hit 120 miles an hour on the straightaway.
They can, but there's also 3 officers on duty, and they're in charge of all the 22 miles of fresh waterways, 12 miles of coastline, and the rest of the city. And where is the crime happening? Is happening right in the commercial district for the most part. So that's what they would have preferred to be.
But I do respect your opinion. I think it's very important. I know that we will have a lot of discussion, and we haven't finalized anything from the design. They will take those in there, but I also know that at the same time, we're talking about the South End Fire Station, that is a big conversation about reopening that South End Fire Station because of response time.
And that one's held up for a couple of reasons. Number one is the staffing levels that we would require if we open the South Station. Then we have to increase our fire staffing levels, which means, of course, it means more tax revenue, and we would have to rebuild that South Station. That would be a lot cheaper than what we're looking at with the police station. Our initial designs came in with about $500,000 to extend that structure out so it could house people, but then in housing those people, we've got to add at least 3 more firefighters to open that structure, but that would take everyone's ISO insurance ratings down to a 5 throughout the entire city. It's something that we'd like to get done. We're doing a bunch of things at once right now. We've got the High Dunes Trail that we're doing, we've got the Tsunami Tower that we're doing. The jetty isn't going to get in the process of starting to get repaired this summer. So there's a lot of things that we're moving on all at once. But there's, you know, everything, there's always something else out there.
Any?
Yep, go ahead.
So, like I said, I haven't been here long. What's the story with that marina area down there? Didn't there used to be like commercial fishing and all that stuff that went on there? We live in a coastal town, but there's not anywhere you can really get fresh seafood. And that's kind of silly, if you ask me.
We have to go to the other side.
Yeah, no.
I mean,
If there was something that I could do as mayor is to convince the Quinaults who have bought that, they control that, for them to do something. And to me, it's ridiculous that you cannot even launch a boat out into the ocean, and we're on ocean shores. So again, we've been having conversations with the port about doing that. But I think what will possibly stimulate a lot of stuff going there is that right now the Corps of Engineers are working on repairing the jetty. They either have or they're in the process of securing access to start the process. Once they have that, on the modeling that we've done, that it will start changing how the erosion happens, and so it starts clearing out the marina so it's usable. But one of the things that we do have a problem with is that the port is not in favor of using that as a fishing home port, because that used to be the home port for the Quinaults. They have it over there, and it's about money. I mean, that's where they are. But I do believe we can have a marina for recreational to get there. But our first one is for us to get the jetty repaired, because that will have a significant impact of where it goes. Because right now, that's the problem. We've got erosion. If you look on the back side of where our sewage treatment plant is, we've got major erosion. So that's why we need to have to fix it. So we're in conversation. We've already got the money from the Corps of Engineers, have committed to it. Now we just got to get the plan to do that. But again, that is one of the first things that I bring up constantly every time I meet with the Quinaults are, what are you going to do? Because I agree, that would change Ocean Shores dramatically if we could have boating there.
And it is for sale. It has been up, they put out an offer, but I don't think they've gotten anyone that's being run out of a firm in Seattle. I don't think they've gotten any interest. I don't know what price they're offering, because it's an exclusive sort of transaction. But obviously, it's still there for sale. That's been up there for about a year now. And we've talked to them, we've talked to the tribe as well, and that is not in their business model.
Just to kind of put a period on my comment, it just dawned on me that our patrolmen that we have here, our police department, have cars. So it really doesn't matter where we put the police station. They're mobile.
In a way, it does matter because you still have, they do all of our permitting for camping. So they stop in for the camping part of it. That the vision is if you're going to do drug enforcement, they would use the police station as a staging area. So again, kind of in that core area, I think it is the way to go. I mean, to have it way down there is really out of sight, out of mind with it. And because we are the only major police department on the coast here, you know, so whether it be our fire, whether it be our police, that we really are the main responders. The sheriff does, I think they have 2 deputies out here, and they're like usually on one at a time. So we really are kind of the first responders of the coast.
And the one thing to add to that you'd have to have Chief Logan in front of you to say, but the driving 120 miles an hour down Point Brown or up Ocean Shores Boulevard with our deer is extraordinarily dangerous. I mean, it is like a life-threatening hazard. So they hit those things going at that speed. I mean, you're going to kill the officer involved. Yeah, and so it's better we don't have to do that if we don't have to.
Do you speak from experience?
I do not, although I did have a raccoon give me a pretty good dodge one time.
They're just evil.
Okay, it's 5:26, so we should wrap up. If there's any final questions?
Just to thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, do we have final questions? Is that what that is? All right, hang on.
One more thing I want to.
All right, one and then one and then.
I've heard some rumors here and there about on Overlake that they're gonna put a pass through there so water can flow through there. Is that a statement that the city has ever looked at?
I don't know if we're talking about the same thing. You're talking about the Whitehead
No.
cleanup or the...
No, off of Bass Avenue, past the Elks. You know, go over on Overlake to the little island that used to be out there.
Yeah.
When they just filled that road in.
Right.
I've heard rumors here and there that they're gonna put culverts in there to allow that to be open so they get a little water flow. So is that just a rumor maybe?
I will ask the city engineer about that.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. And then you had one last question?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, have you guys ever considered looking at the other police departments and seeing what we can, emulate or grab a hold of their plans and see if they'll fit here in Ocean Shores instead of getting new plans drawn up? Because the one that they had or that they wanted to put behind Bennett was ridiculously expensive.
Well, where do you think it's going to be cheaper?
No, we can borrow the plans for the police department that's already established.
No, and that's what we did. That's what we built on. I mean, we've looked at most value engineering as we possibly could find, and to meet all the requirements for the state. I mean, that was the first thing that when I became mayor, when I saw the first 3 options, is there something that we could do different? And we went through of the state just has very, very harsh requirements of what we need to have as a police station. And unfortunately, unlike the fire department, there's plenty of grants for things that do with fire, but because of how things are politically right now, the police, there's just no money to have it. But I reached out to 6 or 7 different the new ones that were built, and looked at our plans, and almost every one of those plans were cheaper when they first put them out there, but they became much more expensive when they got them done with it. And of course, then we're also dealing with the whole construction cost is dramatically higher with it. So we think we have it, but again, we're going to go back and take a look at what our initial plans are, have a conversation with our police chief. Are there things that we can take out of there? But I'm all about driving out cost, but we got to do something for our police department.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we've just seen costs. It was, when I first started, that was 3 years ago, we looked at Cosmopolis's, and they were going to build the police station / city hall. And originally it came in at like 2.8 million, and then the next year when they looked at it, it was like 4.2, and then it just got to the point, like they just said, let's forget it and not do it. Now prices have started to come down, on real estate and land, but not necessarily for raw materials building, so that's still high. But, something we have to get done, we can't put it off forever.
Just as an example to that, 2 years ago, we started working on a manufactured home project here in Ocean Shores. When we first started pricing that puppy, it was at $220,000, and that included the build, the clearing, and everything. By the time May of 2020 came around, 2020 I think it was, that price of that home had gone up to $386,000. This was just a small 3-bedroom, 2-bath manufactured home with a garage. It's gone insane, and the build went from 4 to 6 months out to 18 months that they were taking to build these. There are so many things going into costs increasing, and it's lack of labor, lack of supplies and materials. Lumber went out of the world in cost. We ended up having to say, we can't do this. Well, first of all, we were saved because they ordered a 68-foot home for an 85-foot space. So that got us out of that. And we ended up buying a home here in Ocean Shores. So when they say they may start out one point with 3.5 million and then a year down the road when they're finally getting around to doing things, it's doubled or maybe even tripled. I can totally believe that. It is so ridiculously expensive to build anything right now.
One last question from this gentleman. There we go.
Why did you say you didn't want to do modular? What was the problem with the modulars?
The unit they have there, because it's four modulars, is starting to separate. The electrical is pre-wired, and so it's starting to deteriorate underneath. And then, of course, with electronics, there's a higher requirement. They have the air conditioning units are so loud that they can't even talk to one another. The floor is uneven. It's starting to deteriorate.
Both the mayor and the chief of police there said if we had to do it over, we wouldn't do it this way. And they did something very differently. They didn't locate it downtown. They actually located it like 3 miles outside of the city center because the land was cheaper there. But
are you talking about the module that they have now?
Yeah, in Woodland. Yeah.
In Woodland, Washington.
How old is that?
in Woodland.
2013 they built it. 2013. And even then they estimate, like just based on current costs, it was significantly cheaper than what we're looking at, but it would probably still come in around $8 million today. And what we're looking at is around 10.2. We're asking the bond for 12 because we know there's going to be cost overruns. We just know there are.
Well, yeah.
There's just no way to avoid that. And I don't want to go back out to council and say, oh, we're going to need another 1.2 million. And it's just going to look embarrassing because we just know there's no way we can control that at this point.
Right.
Okay, so I appreciate you guys coming. I know you guys are busy. I love it when I hear you guys because it always makes me think better of why we're doing something, and it's always good for me to take it back to my staff of here's what the citizens are. And I know we have a list of some questions that we need to get answers to, and we'll get back there. So make sure we have your contact, and we'll get in touch with you. And at any time, we're always available to listen to whatever you have to say. Thanks.
Thank you.